Hamburger steak in homemade gravy. We have some homemade macaroni and cheese. And we got mashed potatoes. Now, if that's something that you're interested in learning, stick around. Hit that subscribe button. Be part of the Grammy family. We would love to have you. If you find this video very informative to you, hit that like button. We'll start cooking from scratch. Let's cook like well, in my case, my grandmother cooked, like my mother cooked. So today we're going to make hamburger steak with mashed potatoes and gravy, and we're going to make some homemade macaroni and cheese. And you can use any kind of ground meat that you like. I actually am using ground turkey. This is a 3-pound piece of ground turkey. In here we have our spices and our herbs. I've got a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of pepper, a half a teaspoon of both garlic and onion powder, 2 tablespoons of dried onions, and then we also have 2 tablespoons of the A1 steak sauce. We're going to need 2 eggs. So we're going to put our ground turkey in this bowl. I have 2 slices of day-old bread. You can use homemade, you can use store-bought. And then I have some cashew milk, unflavored, unsweetened cashew milk. Use any milk of your choice. Probably put in maybe a tablespoon. And we're just going to get in here and just rip it up. This is going to be our binder. And we just want to get in here and mix that up with the milk. Get it all mushy. We don't want to bite into a big old breadcrumb in our hamburger steak, or in my case, a turkey steak. Now we're going to add 2 eggs to this. And we're going to beat that together. So we have our milk, our bread, and our eggs. So we have our 3 pounds of ground turkey. We're going to add our bread, milk, and egg mixture. We're going to add our spices and herbs. We're going to add our A1 steak sauce. And we're going to mix this together. We don't want to over blend it. We just want to get it mixed. I am using a wooden spoon right now. But the best kitchen tool in the house are these, our hands. So let's just get in there and mix it up. Alright, now we're going to move over to the stove and start frying this up and get ready to have hamburger steak with gravy. Now we're going to peel the potatoes for the mashed potatoes to go with the hamburger steak and gravy. So I have about 2 pounds of yellow Yukon Gold potatoes. We're going to sit here and peel all those. Do you use a potato peel or do you use a knife? Alright, so we are finished peeling potatoes. Now we're going to cut these into cubes. You want them all about the same size so they cook evenly. We're going to rinse these. As for the potato peels, do not save this for your chicken stock. It's starch, and starch in a chicken stock would just make it go cloudy. You can put this in your compost bin, or you can feed it to your chickens. But do not save this for chicken stock. So I have cold water in this pot. We're going to add our potatoes. We're going to bring that up to a boil, and while we're waiting on that to cook, you know what? I'm going to move it over to this burner right here. I'm going to let this come up to a boil, and then we'll strain it and we'll make mashed potatoes. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and make our hamburger steak. So here we have our hamburger mixture. We're going to turn the stove on medium. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. Now this was 3 pounds of ground meat. So I'm going to make each patty about 6 ounces. So that's going to give me 8 patties. So I'm going to flatten this out, and then I'm going to score it into 8 sections. We have 3 pounds of our ground meat with the seasonings and herbs in it. So we scored it into 8. So each one of these is a patty, and they're going to be roughly about 6 ounces. And I mean roughly, I'm not going to sit there and weigh each one. Form a little patty on here, and we're going to get it in our hot pan with the olive oil. So I decided to bring out the big pan. Now we're going to go ahead and get this heated up. Let's go ahead and get these 2 patties in this big pan. And we're going to make some more patties and put in there also. Five. Perfect. I can get 5 in this big pan. We're just going to let that boil. May take about 10 minutes. We're going to take the first 2 out. We're not cooking these all the way because after we make our gravy, we will continue cooking those in the gravy. Add 2 more. And that leaves us 1. I think we'll be able to do it. Go ahead and put that last one in there. There we go, right there in the center. And the potatoes are boiling. We want to make sure they are fork tender. I'm going to test the potatoes. Fork goes in there with no resistance. So our potatoes are done. We're going to go ahead and get that into the sink and get that strained. I'm going to go ahead and get that strained out. While the pot is dirty, we're going to go ahead and put water in it for the macaroni to go with the macaroni and cheese. Again, we're putting cold water. So we have our water in the pot over here for the macaroni. Unlike the potatoes, you don't put macaroni in cold water. You actually have to have the water boiling before you add any kind of pasta. But we are going to go ahead and salt our water so the pasta can be seasoned before we start building our cheese sauce. So right here I have my Celtic sea salt. I'm going to add about a half a teaspoon in there. We're going to cover that and let that come up to a boil. As for the hamburger steak, alright, I think the second batch of the 3 are ready to come out. Now we just have to cook the last 3. You're probably thinking this pan is burnt, but it's not. That is just flavor. That is actually called, if I'm not mistaken, fawn, which is the brown bits at the bottom of the pan. We're actually going to use that as part of our gravy to add flavor. So don't think this is burnt and the pan has to be washed before we move on to the gravy, because it does not. Like I say in most of the videos that we make on this channel is you have to season in layers. That is just another layer of seasoning that's going to go into this hamburger steak with the gravy. So don't think the pan is dirty, because it is not. It's just flavor cooked into the pan. Then we will use the roux and the chicken stock or any kind of stock of your choice to get the bits and pieces out and add flavor to the sauce. So right here I have 10 ounces of just a elbow macaroni pasta that we're going to make our macaroni and cheese with. To go with that, I have 2 bags of grated cheese. I have a pepper jack, and then I have a cheddar. Might not need all of this, but we are going to use both of them. We're going to make a roux with butter and flour. Then we're going to add some cashew milk to it. You can use any kind of milk of your choice, but I prefer plant-based milk. I am not dairy free, but I do prefer plant milk. Right here we have our mashed potatoes, or the potatoes that we're going to make into mashed potatoes. We're going to add salt, and pepper to taste. We're going to add butter. This is my favorite butter, this Romano. So good. I just keep it in the freezer. Make sure I have one in the refrigerator at all times, which I need to put another one in there because this is the last one I have in the refrigerator. So we're going to put about maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons in here. Alright, so let's taste these potatoes. Salt and pepper. Let's taste these potatoes. Spot on. Alright, back at the stove. I think our last 3 hamburger steaks are ready to come out. Again, they are not done. We're going to finish this in the gravy. I have the stove turned off because I don't want to cook this pan any more than I have to. So we're going to put a little bit of chicken stock in here, just to loosen up this a bit. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. Turn the burner back on. We're going to add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So with a little bit of that chicken stock in there, the bits and pieces come right up. We're going to get the butter all melted in there, and then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. We're going to cook that flour out just to get the raw flour taste out of this. I'm going to slowly add in our chicken stock. I'm going to try to have a clump-free gravy. Now we're just going to whisk this until it thickens up. Once it thickens up a little bit, then we're going to go ahead and add our hamburger patties back inside. We're going to constantly whisk it to make sure we don't have no lumps. And our water has come to a boil. Let's go ahead and add our pasta in the boiling salted water. Back to the gravy. Let's taste the gravy and see if it needs any seasoning. Definitely needs salt and pepper. little bit of garlic powder. We're going to add about a half a teaspoon. We're going to add about a half a teaspoon of onion powder also. Alright, you can see it's starting to thicken up. We're going to turn it down to a medium-low. And then we're going to add our patties right back in it. And we're going to let our patties cook in the gravy. We're just going to let the hamburger steaks finish cooking in the gravy while we're waiting on our macaroni and cheese. If you use chicken stock and you want your gravy just a little bit darker, you can use this browning seasoning. It's very good. It's Kitchen Bouquet browning and seasoning sauce, and that will add another depth of flavor in addition to darken the gravy. Or you can just start off with beef stock. Beef stock will also give it a darker color. I just prefer chicken stock because it's a neutral flavor, and you can make it both beef or chicken, but I prefer the chicken stock. And the longer this will cook, the thicker it will be. And if you mix cornstarch with cold water, make a slurry out of it, and then pour it in here, and then it will thicken up in the hot sauce. But before we go there, we're going to make sure that this is actually going to thicken up. Okay, the pasta is at an al dente, which in Italian means with a bite, because it will finish cooking in the cheese sauce. So we're going to strain that, and then we're going to move back to the stove and start on the cheese sauce. And switch the pots around so I can get you closer to this pot while we make our cheese sauce. So in the same pot that we cooked the macaroni in, we're going to add about a tablespoon of butter, and then we're going to add about a tablespoon of oil. And the rule of thumb to making a roux is 1 part fat, 1 part flour. So we have 2 tablespoons, 1 butter and 1 olive oil in here. And to that we're going to add approximately 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And we're going to make a roux. Let me get you a little closer. Once the butter is melted into the oil, we're going to go ahead and add our flour. So we're going to cook the flour out of here, and right here I have a quart of cashew milk. Again, use whatever milk of your choice. We're going to slowly stir in a little bit at a time to keep clumps from forming. I used about 3 cups. Did not need the whole quart. And again, we're seasoning in layers. We're going to put pepper, salt, garlic powder, about a half a teaspoon, onion powder, about a half a teaspoon, and Italian seasoning, about a half a teaspoon. Start adding our cheese. We're going to start off with about a cup of each pepper jack and cheddar. It's thicking up, so might need this last cup of milk. Let's give that a taste, see if it needs any more seasoning. Definitely needs salt and pepper. We're going to go ahead and put in our cooked macaroni. We're going to turn that down on low and let the sauce finish cooking that pasta. So now we're going to taste the macaroni and cheese and see if it needs anything. And notice it is white. It's not yellow like that box stuff you get at the store. This is homemade, and it's made with raw cheese, raw cheddar, and raw pepper jack. Real. There's no color in this. It's organic, raw cheese. So it's not going to be orange like you would get from the grocery store because this is homemade. That is really good. I think the pasta needs to cook just a little bit longer. I'm just going to let it continue to cook in this sauce. Stirring it every now and then to make sure we don't have nothing sticking. Our hamburger steaks have been cooking in here. Probably going to let that go for another 15 minutes. Make sure that the burgers are done. I'm going to go ahead and give them a little flip to make sure they're cooking all the way through. You're probably thinking that's a lot of food for 2 people. But the way the husband and myself, we work, it's easier for us to have delicious, real ingredient food in the house so that we can heat it up when we come home from work or whenever we feel the need that we need some real food without going to get fast food or stopping somewhere and picking up junk food. So to make sure that the husband and myself are able to eat delicious, nutrient-dense meals, it takes time. And I don't mind that, knowing that we are eating healthy and true food. So there you have it. Hamburger steak in homemade gravy. We have some homemade macaroni and cheese. And we got mashed potatoes. You can also add a salad to this if you like, or roast some broccoli, some kind of vegetable if you like. That's probably what I'm going to do. Probably going to roast some broccoli. But this is real ingredient food. In the last couple decades, we've gotten away from eating real food and going to boxed food. Let's save some money and let's cook from scratch. Until next time, y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you.